I'm so confused about this NAR settlement.
And we've had so many questions from people about this lawsuit with National Association of Realtors and the settlement that's happened and what's going on. And so many people are confused, buyers, sellers, even some agents.
Exactly. And in this video today, we are going to put it all out there on the table for you and hopefully clear up all this misconception about this NAR settlement and how it affects you as a seller and buyer.
That's right, as a consumer in general. And if not, you know how to get a hold of us.
Absolutely.
We'd be glad to answer your question.
And before we start, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel.
That's right.
And here we go.
So basically, the National Association of Realtors was involved in a lawsuit claiming that the clear cooperation policy was not being followed.
The National Association of Realtors, the largest trade group in the nation, agreed to pay $418 million to settle class action lawsuits over broker commission.
A real estate lawsuit settlement sends shockwaves through the real estate world.
So on Friday, we broke that breaking news. The National Association of Realtors is settling over a massive lawsuits. And of course, this story has taken off like wildfire.
Well, if you are planning on buying a home, you could face a higher than expected bill. Because a judge approved a settlement with the National Association of Realtors.
The National Association of Realtors has agreed to pay $418 million in damages to settle class action antitrust lawsuits over broker commissions.
So basically, there are some sellers that listed their homes who were unaware or not sure on how commissions or compensation was being shared between the listing broker and the buying broker. So in all that, NAR, National Association of Realtors, settled without claiming any wrongdoing, and there have been some changes. Before, the MLS, a lot of MLSs required that the listing agent, when they got that from the listing agreement, they decided with the seller what the compensation was going to be, they listed on the MLS what they were offering to the buyer's broker, the buyer's agent. That can no longer happen. So now we cannot advertise or share what has been discussed with the seller and the listing agent. We can no longer share and advertise that on our MLSs. It doesn't mean the seller can't pay a buyer's broker commission. That is not the case. It only means we cannot advertise what was discussed, and they cannot set that commission for the buyer's agent. So as it's always been negotiable, it's still negotiable, but now it puts the ball in the court of the buyer's broker, the buyer's agent. Now they can negotiate their commission, their compensation, not only with their buyer that they are representing, but also with the listing agent broker and the seller. So since that compensation amount to the buyer's broker can no longer be published on our MLS, no matter if it was required before or not, it cannot be there. No mention of compensation can be on the MLS. So because of that, buyer's agents are going to reach out to the listing agents to find out. However that's going to work, they're going to show homes to their buyers, and when they find out what maybe the seller is offering or not, then they can discuss that with their buyer. They already have an agreement in place with the buyer, which we'll talk about in just a minute, about what they charge, what their compensation amount is. If the seller is offering that, that's great. If the seller is not, or offering a little bit smaller, then we go back to our buyers and we discuss that, and we will work that out then.
The real estate industry has not changed forever.
Well, there's been a few small changes.
But not like what we're seeing all over social media.
No, and media in general, they're blowing it out of proportion and making a bigger deal than it really has to be.
So, you know, Melissa, we've always had a buyer's representation agreement.
Always. It's always been available.
It's been available. It's just that we didn't always use it because we weren't required to use it.
Right. Some agents didn't. It was just another piece of paper. Some were like, I don't want to tie anybody in. If they don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with them, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But the big change now is that we as realtors cannot even open a door. We cannot even show them a virtual tour, nada, until we have a buyer's representation signed.
Some kind of agreement, some written signed agreement has to be signed before you can open a door. Now, that doesn't have to tie you into a 6-month thing with an agent, right?
Exactly. You can cancel anytime.
Right. Or it can be for this one house.
Right.
It can be for this day. It could be for 7 days, and then we'll revisit and see if we want to keep working together.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to tie you into a long thing and tie you to this big commission.
Right. And when you say tie you to a commission percentage, what she means by that is in your buyer's representation agreement, there is a place for us to write in what our compensation will be. Because, I mean, we don't work for free. I mean, our services are valuable. We work to protect your interest as a buyer. So as your buyer's agent, it's important that you understand that we provide these services and it does cost money.
Sure, it
for
does.
these services.
We have fees. We have fees we have to pay to even serve you. And we have brokerage fees. And that's really what we're charging.
And what people are so confused about is that now they're saying, quote, well, the seller doesn't have to pay for commissions anymore for the buyer's agent. Well, they never really did anyway.
Right. It was never a hard, fast rule that anybody pay anybody's commission. Now, we all want to get paid again. Yes, we do. And we do get paid and we do get our compensation. But now they're saying, yes, that the seller doesn't have to pay. Well, they never had to pay.
No.
It could go either way. Our representation agreements that we had before said, this is what we charge. We will do our best to get that from the seller because that's kind of the way it used to be. And if they didn't pay it or pay all of it, then we were going to come back to the buyer.
That's right. And renegotiate.
Or collect the rest of it.
Exactly.
So that hasn't changed. What's changed is that agreement has to be signed before we can show a home.
Right. And the other thing that's kind of changed is that it's fully disclosed now. Because you remember, this lawsuit was National Association of Realtors. So believe it or not, the Texas Real Estate Commission did a very good job of disclosing all of this on our contracts and our paperwork, but not necessarily all states.
They're all different.
Yeah, they're all different. So you have to remember this was a national lawsuit.
So in this agreement that buyers and their agents are signing and agreeing to together, is very similar to what the listing agreement was. It talks about agency and what that means for you. It means you're going to have a relationship together. You're going to help each other out. You have obligations, right, to each other. As an agent, my duty to you is to do everything I can to help you find that home, that one that you're looking for, the one that's going to make you happy, and we're going to get you in it. And your obligation then is to work exclusively with me, my broker actually, and me as an agent, and not call the listing agent when you see one on Zillow or realtor.com and you click that button, send me more information, because you're going to get calls from other people, and that gets confusing with everybody.
Right. Your agent learns what you like and what you don't like, and they start to get to know you better, and it makes it easier for us to find you a house. But if you're working with 5 or 6 different agents, you never build that solid relationship of trust and getting to know you better so you find the house.
Just like with the sellers in the listing agreement, it's a fiduciary duty. When we sign that agreement and I agree to represent you, that means I put your needs and desires above my own. I am working for you.
Exactly.
So that's a big commitment.
It is.
Right? And it's a contract.
It's a serious commitment, and we take it very serious as realtors.
And so it talks about our services. It talks about the fiduciary duty and the obligations of both the agent and the buyer. And yes, it does talk about compensation in there. And, we're going to have that discussion. And whatever the agent you choose to work with, whatever their brokerage fees are, that agent's going to discuss that with you. And of course, as always, we're going to try to negotiate with the seller, whether it's with an offer, at that time with an offer, if maybe they're offering the buyer agent commission already. A lot of that hasn't changed as much as people think it has, but we are going to try to get that from the seller first, and then we'll come back
And renegotiate.
and renegotiate with you if that's what it comes to.
Exactly. Which I've never had it come to that. Have you ever had it come to that?
Not very often. Every now and then, it does happen. And now there are a lot of sellers, which we just talked about, that are getting the information, well, I no longer have to pay that. Again, they never did.
They never did.
But now, because it's in the media and it's so big, they've got that in the back of their head that they don't have to pay it. But that buyer's agent, doesn't work for free, like you talked about. And they have a duty to their buyer to find them the proper house. And we do have to put food on our table and, support our families as well. So there is compensation due.
Right.
So some buyers are concerned then that, so I want to go to this open house. Do I have to have one of those agreements signed before I can go see an open house?
Nope, you sure don't.
You don't.
You don't.
And you know why? That agent who's holding open that house, whether it's their listing or not, works for the seller.
The seller.
Right? If they don't work for you as a buyer, they have to work from someone.
Well, then why don't I just go straight to the listing agent? Why do I even need my own agent, a buyer's agent?
And you can go to the listing agent. However, that causes problems. Remember we talked about fiduciary duty? That listing agent has a duty to their seller. They're putting their interest first. They have to work for that seller, not for you. So if you call up the listing agent, they're representing their seller. And who's representing you? So you don't have somebody in your corner working for you, negotiating for you, doing all the things for you. They're doing that for the seller.
Yeah, and let me give you an example of that. Whenever I am writing an offer for one of my buyers, there, as we know, there are all kinds of different kinds of things in that contract that are negotiable. One of those things is if the house is located in an HOA, there are like these transfer fees, right? And I always try to put that on the seller, always. But if you don't have someone on your corner fighting for you, you may not know that, and you get stuck paying all the fees. And so it's important to remember that when we are working for you, we're working for your best interest, and we're trying to save you money when you're buying your house.
Right. There are so many terms on the contract that we know, and that we know what should go in here or how to negotiate them, that you don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
So even the National Association of Realtors and everyone still advises buyers that you really do need representation. You need an agent to walk you through that process, especially if you're a first-time home buyer.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So they're not saying you don't need one. So yes, you can call up the listing agent, but just beware that they work for the seller.
And buying a house is the biggest investment you're ever going to make. You want to make sure that you do everything right to make sure it's a good investment.
Exactly.
So we hope that this video has been enlightening and helpful for you to better understand the new and not so much new rules that came out from a result of this lawsuit. And we want to help you. So be sure to give us a call, text us, email us, leave us a comment on our page.
Exactly.
Most importantly, like and subscribe on our page. Share our page with others. Help us grow our channel.
That's right.
So I'm Mundy.
And I'm Melissa.
Signing off.
This video was produced by Visionary Masterminds.